And that is one of the reasons why I accepted to come to your podcast, to sound this warning. Okay? We take so many things for granted. If we must defeat Edgar Lungu, let's do it through the ballot, not this through crazy, But the point is that, I mean, we need to learn from history. It happened in 1996. Let's not let it be repeated in 2026. Okay? The Constitutional Court has ruled. Ambassador, if I may push the argument a little slightly further, in our constitutional arrangement, and I'll make this statement very boldly, and I hope that some lawyers will come and challenge me on that. Only the Supreme Court is allowed to depart from its own decisions. And even that right is qualified. Okay? It must be justified in the interest of justice and in the development of the law. Only the Supreme Court. But there is no similar provision in relation to the Constitutional Court. Whatever decision the Constitutional Court makes, it is bound by that decision. It is stuck with that decision. And as a country, we have to come to that reality. We can't go on and beat the court until it gives us the decision that we want. That is the position of the law, and we have to learn. Let's not fight the Constitution. Let's obey the Constitution. Let's respect what the Constitution says. Okay? That is the starting point. That is the solution to all these challenges that we are talking about. Okay? Now, I have no problem if interacting with President Lungu when he's in opposition. You see, in fact, it is when it is in a situation like this, that's when we work with them. Okay? So, I detest injustice.
Correct.
It doesn't matter who is involved. Okay? It is not just right. We should be able to speak against injustice when we see it, irrespective of who is involved.
Watch the entire video, my lovely viewers, from start to finish, to get the whole thing. Without wasting much of your time, let's get right into it.
This is DJ Mutati exclusive.
Hi lovely viewers, it's me again, your one and only Mutati Mpundu. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time on my channel, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel by hitting the subscribe button down below. Turn the bell icon to join the notification squad. Don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment. Tell me what you think about this video in the comment section below. I'll be super glad to hear from you lovely viewers.
The current president has equally panicked by return of President Lungu to active politics. So, what is going on? Now, they've realized that, okay, you came through, you erased the years before 2016 through creative interpretation of the Constitution. So now they have cooked this case, which is now before the Constitutional Court, to undo. Okay, I'm sure you can see the parallels. To undo what they achieved in through the Danpule case, which was repeated in the Kapalasa case.
This matter was settled 3 times.
That's right. And in
the Danpule case, the Bumpy Kapalasa was MP for Katuba.
That's right.
And then your case, another case that you were involved in, the Sishua. I think you amalgamated the petitions or separate.
That's
petition,
right.
Legal Resource Foundation. Sishua's case were amalgamated. And 3 times the Constitutional Court ruled that Edgar Lungu was eligible.
Exactly. So they ruled the first time in Danpule. They stood their ground. They came up with their own ingenious way of arriving at decision, which is fine. Then they repeated the position in Kapalasa. Then again they stood their ground in the final case in 2021. Now, this is another creative way of undoing a decision that has been confirmed not once, but 3 times. Okay? Now, you can see most people, for example, I've forgotten the history of between 1991 and 1996.
Yeah.
And that is why I got involved in the case, to warn the court, to say, listen, let's not go on this path. We've been there before. And we tend to have this ability to take so many things for granted.
Yes.
Now, obviously, whatever has happened, and the fact that you now have 3 judges suspended, right? It doesn't give a good image in terms of, because clearly what is now happening is that the complexion of the court has changed. Okay? So,
By that suspension.
yes, because what is being done is a very, very shabby way and rather indecent way of trying to pack the court.
Yeah.
Because what has happened is this, maybe people may not be privy to this. What happened was, after the current president came to power, the composition, the numbers of the judges of the Constitutional Court appointed by President Lungu, I think, was reduced to 7.
Yeah.
I think some retired, some died. One retired, I think about 2 of them died also.
The full bench is supposed to be how many? 11?
Yeah, I think something to that. It has to be some uneven number anyway. Now, what did the president do? He appointed 4 of his own. So the attempt was basically to water down the composition dilute the composition of the court. But again, he could only appoint 4. So you now have 7 judges appointed by President Lungu, and then
4 judges
appointed by
President Hakainde Hichilema.
Yes. Now,
and of the 7, he suspends 3 of them.
that's right. So it's a very shabby way, but in a very, very shameless way, where you just being blatant. So now you have 4 judges appointed by President Lungu, 4 judges appointed by President Hakainde.
Yeah.
Now, that is the composition of our court. But they go further. They realize that you can't sit as 8 judges, but 7. So they drop 1 judge who was appointed by President Lungu. So now you have 4 against 3.
Yeah.
Okay?
And of the 3, 1 had already ruled, given minority judgment against President Lungu.
It was a very shabby, very, very shabby, shameless way of doing things, which I think if there was some element of decency, people would not have done things in such a blatant manner.
Yeah.
Okay, but it doesn't take a genius to figure out as to where this is going.
I'm glad that you are speaking about this in a comical way, but that's a tragedy then of our judiciary.
It is.
You cannot have a judiciary revisiting their own decisions, as in this case. You cannot have a court, to revisit its own decisions. I think it's not even provided for in the law.
No, it's not. It's not. And those are the issues that I had prepared to share with the court. When I applied, I was given only 24 hours, less than 24 hours to prepare. So I normally do a couple of drafts. Maybe I even go up to the 10th draft that I'm satisfied. So I ended up filing my first draft, okay, just to meet that requirement. And then I indicated expressly to say, these are cases where you don't pick up submission from the shelf. You have to sit down and think very carefully. Now, you have to remember, this is a court where there is no appeal. Okay? Once they have decided, that's it, you're done. And there is no provision for the court to review its own decision. There isn't. Okay? And that is why I made it expressly clear in my submission to say, I would like to request to be given the opportunity to add to my submission verbally in court. Yeah. because I realized the enormity or the gravity of the situation we are dealing with. Because what is at play, it's not necessarily Lungu or HH or what, it's the country. This is what people don't see, okay? Lungu will not live forever, but the implication of the decision will live on beyond that. HH will not live forever, okay? But the implication of what he's doing and what is being done during his presidency will live on, okay? Now, this is the mistake that we often make. We don't think like that. People only think about themselves and now. We don't think about what we are doing to the country. That was my motivation to apply to get involved in the case, to point out the dangers of doing this, of the path that had been taken. Because first of all, I lost the case, not once, twice.
Yeah.
First, I opposed the application in the Dan Pule case.
That same court, you told them that President Lungu was not eligible for 2021.
That's right.
The second case, you still told them that President Lungu was not eligible.
That's right.
The third case, you still told them
Yes.
that President Lungu was not eligible.
Yes.
But they differed with you. They said he was eligible 3 times.
Yes. Now,
And I think the nation is now understanding. Because the same court that told you that he's eligible 3 times, now they're the ones that are actively entertaining the thoughts that you had presented to them when it was not fashionable to do so.
That's correct. Now, that's like going back to what we had said. But the point is this. Our courts are not made up of saints. They're not saints. They're human beings like you and I. Are they perfect? No. They make mistakes. But sometimes we have to live with those mistakes. Now, if we say that it was a mistake to have ruled that Edgar was eligible in 2021, and now it is correct to now undo that, which is a better evil. Okay? From a legal point of view and looking at the interests of the country, I can live with the first mistake, that Lungu is eligible. I can live with that because my view is that it is a very dangerous and selfish game that we are playing. We are playing with the country in the sense that, you see, there has to be finality to every litigation. Okay? I went to court. I lost. I had a position. And I was told, by the way, what I say is not the law, but what the courts say becomes the law. I respected that. I accepted that. They ruled that Lungu was eligible. And next, Lungu's name was on the ballot. Next, Lungu took part in the election. Next, Lungu lost. Now, is he eligible to stand in 2026? Yes, he's eligible, because nothing has changed between 2021 and the next election. God willing, he lives up to that point. Now, to go back and start now beating the court to change its tune, that is what I find difficult to accept. That is what we should not entertain as a country. And it's very dangerous, and my worry is that a decision to the effect that Lungu is not eligible, reversing the earlier decision, would destroy the court completely. It would destroy the court completely. No matter how creative they may be in their thinking, okay, it will simply destroy the court. Because the court itself has not helped itself. It has not conducted itself very well. It has failed to win the trust and respect of the people, and I think this will be a final blow. And the people that are doing all these activities or who are behind the scheme, I don't think at all they have the interest of the country at heart.
Maybe they have the power and they think they can get away with it.
They may, They may, and that is why this podcast is important, to be able to have a conversation and warn the people of this country that we are on a very dangerous path. Okay? When you go to court, there are two possible outcomes.
Yeah.
Okay? When you go to court, you expect either the court to rule in your favor or against you. You should be able to accept both outcomes. One person will end up crying, the other one will end up rejoicing. It is the nature of our judicial system. But you don't go back and start beating the court first of all, you don't go back by first of all cooking the court so that it can give you the decision that you want. That is very, very indecent. Okay? It's not the way to do it, and that acts against the interest of the Republic. Now, that was one of the things that motivated me. Okay, I have no right, because I can tell you, for example, I didn't vote for President Lungu in 2021. I didn't. Okay, that is my right. That is my prerogative. I do not have the right to stop him from appearing on the ballot. I don't. He has the right to appear on the ballot, but he doesn't have a right to my vote. That is my prerogative. He has to earn people's votes. Okay? But this idea is happening again. In 1996, we used the law. We used the Constitution to stop Kaunda from contesting. Now, we are about to use the courts to stop another presidential candidate from contesting. And that is what I'm warning the country, to say, please, let's make progress. This is not the way we should be conducting ourselves. We have far more pressing bread and butter issue to consider in this country than getting embroiled in these activities that are going on in court.
The matters that happened in court and at court yesterday were very sad. First, the number of deployed police officers that had been secured and sealed from Chikwa Court, from the new roundabout where Stanchart has built a new feature there, round up to Intercontinental. The number of police officers that sealed the area it's like you were at war. And then something happened in court. When the court finally opened and you began to make your presentations, I think you tried to guide the court. First, you stated that the other parties to the case could comment on your submission. Mm-hmm. You had made very fundamental submissions, even warning the court in the event that they ruled that Edgar Lungu was not eligible. Again, we'll talk about that. But you warned the court. So the court started. They allowed the petitioner to lay his case. They allowed Edgar Lungu's lawyers, Bonaventure Mtalea and Makebi Zulu, Jonas Zimba, to also lay their case. Then they allowed the Attorney General and the Electoral Commission of Zambia. And of course, you are the friend of the court, the most neutral voice.
Yes.
And when it came to you, all of a sudden there was just pandemonium in court.
Yeah.
The judges decided that they would not hear you.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was that?
Ambassador, I've been a practitioner for many years. I've never seen that. And I know that other people have said, I walked away upset. No. I think I walked away with a sense of sadness and a sense of shame. It was more about sadness, really, because what transpired in court, even as a matter of common sense, should not have transpired. Now, the point is this. The court, at the end of first of all, you must understand the gravity, the enormous powers that are vested in this court. Matters begin and end in this court. There is no option for an appeal. In a court like this, common sense would dictate that judges should have a somewhat liberal approach. The other point that that you should have at least be friendly, allow people to address themselves. First of all, in terms of the amount of work, those judges, those 11 or whatever, 7 or 8 judges, have no work, first of all. They have no work. A single judge of the High Court, okay, has more cases in a year than the entire Constitutional Court. Now, obviously, they have more time at their disposal. But this attitude or the attempt to curtail everything, that was very sad for me. Now, the point is this. I may have made submissions to the court. Those submissions are on record, which means the court will consider them, right? Now, there is no way they would consider those submissions without input from the other parties, okay? Because the other parties will be perfectly in order to say, court, you decided on an issue or took into account issues that were given to you by a friend of the court, but you didn't allow us to comment on that. And that in itself would render the judgment, that in itself would taint the judgment. Now, first of all, nobody has a monopoly of wisdom. What the court should have allowed, I gave them my views, and I would love to believe the Attorney General had his own position on the issues I raised. The lawyers for the petition had their own position, which the court would have been enriched by the diversity of views. That is how we grow our jurisprudence and everything else. But it comes down to what we've been talking about, the experience. Any person that has conducted, who has been involved, who has carried out, who has been involved in trial advocacy, who has conducted trial, will tell you that there was absolutely no reason for the court to have curtailed the parties. The parties should have been allowed to address the court. Now, in my case, for example, as long as they had accepted my submissions, I had standing to address the court. But what transpired was very sad, very, very sad. I feel sorry. People said I was upset. No, I just feel sorry for the court. That's the unfortunate situation. If you,
Why wouldn't they hear you?
I have no idea.
For example, they've said they will come up with judgment on 10th December.
Exactly.
So that means there was time.
Exactly. Okay, we could have heard this case. It's just baffling. This is a critical, fundamental constitutional issue raised, which was heard in less than 3 hours. It just doesn't make sense.
You know, when the court starts, I was doing a verbatim, and I note, although they excluded me, by the way, the court, I don't know who gave instructions, serious instructions to the police. All the police from all the gates told me that they flagged my name and that I shouldn't be allowed in that court. Now, but when you look at the verbatim, the judge president gives you 20 minutes. Again, I don't know if there was need for time limit. No. I thought the argument should have led.
You see,
And then when it comes to you, you are not given 0 minutes.
Yeah. Now, I'll tell you, if I get my statistics right, I think I've just forgotten the number, the cause number. But I can tell you that per year, the Constitutional Court hears less than 40 cases in a year. In a year.
Than the thousands last time we had discussed.
Yes.
The High Court judges.
How do you justify that kind of behavior? How? 11 judges. Now, of course, there are 8. And you have less than 40 cases. If we can divide it, then it works out to about 5 cases per person per year. That is a drop in the ocean compared to what High Court judges are hearing. Now, but even if that was not the case, with the full knowledge that there is no appeal, there is no way you would constrain the lawyers. You have to allow them to exhaust themselves. Unless maybe they start repeating, then you cut them short. So you've already made that point. But to simply stand up and say, you have 20 minutes, irrespective of the complexity of the issues involved, I mean, it's like you're going there as a formality.
Yeah.
It's like if something is already, you just want to go and tick the box.
Yes.
I appeared before court and I was heard. Now, one of the reasons, one of the issues that I often talk about is that, first of all, the court does not and should not operate in a vacuum. There are laws.
Yeah.
There are laws.
That guides them.
Yes.
And rules and regulations.
Yes. Article 18 of the Constitution guarantees each and every person that appears before court a free and fair hearing before an independent and impartial court.
That's emphasized.
It is a constitutional right. Now, will it be fair for a person to be given 20 minutes to argue his case? I don't think so. Given everything, all the factors considered, there is no way such a behavior from the court can actually be justified. That kind of behavior actually undermines the Constitution. What was the rush? The court could have continued. The court could have sat even in the afternoon. What was the rush? Yeah. Okay? But what is even worse was what transpired in the days earlier, was it the previous week, where lawyer for the petitioner, for the respondent, was given an hour to prepare and file
the recusal application. I was coming to that. So the main respondent in this matter, Edgar Lungu, raised concern over 3 judges, and he applied. First of all, he reported them to the JCC because he felt the issue of recusal is a judgment call. These people, these judges, know that their proximity to the head of state and their proximity to the case with the concerns he raised, they should have, without prompting, recused themselves. So he filed in an application with the JCC on that concern. And then he came with an application to seek what you call leave, permission from court, that he wanted to bring an application for the 3 to recuse themselves. The judge president that she had previously provided a dissenting judgment, and in their view, in the view of President Lungu, he didn't think that she would change her mind on that, and that she would not abdicate or vacate her earlier positions. For the other 2 judges are their relationship with the head of state. What do you do in circumstances of recusal? I thought that's a fundamental issue to a right to a fair trial.
You know, the problem is we take a lot of things very lightly in this country. And that is basically what may account for where we are 60 years on after independence. Now, let me try and explain this thing. I've just talked about Article 18. Article 18 is non-debatable. It is a right of every person that appears before court.
Yeah.
That person, if first of all, he has the right. The court, it's not me imagining this. Article 18(9) clearly states that you are entitled. You are entitled to appear before a court that is independent and, most importantly, impartial. That is one. When you appear before this independent and impartial court, you are also entitled to a fair hearing. The first portion, defines the character of the court, that court must be impartial. Secondly, fair hearing. It is now talking about the conduct of that hearing. It's not just a wishy-washy kind of hearing, but it has to be fair. Fairness will be determined based on the facts of each particular case. Let me draw some parallels here. When we say impartial, Ambassador, you know, it's like you want to go to surgery. The operating room must be sterile.
It's non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable. Okay? There should be absolutely nothing to contaminate the patient. Because you're going to open up the patient. That is why everybody wears sterile clothing and equipment is sterilized and everything, so that there should be no subsequent contamination. Now, if you as a patient, you say, oh, I'm going for surgery, I would like to see the theater where I'm going to be operated in. You can. And you have to be satisfied.
It's your life at stake.
It's your life. So if you see molds in the ceiling, it's already a problem. If you see some rust somewhere, it's already a problem. Okay? So there should be nothing to compromise the operation. That is the same level of what is expected before the court. That is the standard. There should be absolutely nothing that will contaminate the final decision of the court. Okay? And that is why judges do take oath on the Bible. When you take that oath, you are taking it before God and before man, that I will do my job. That's the commitment. Now, the problem is that people don't take these commitments seriously. They just parrot them without thinking what the implication is. And that is one of the reasons why I accepted to come to your podcast, to sound this warning. Okay? We take so many things for granted. If we must defeat Edgar Lungu, let's do it through the ballot, not this through crazy, But the point is that, I mean, we need to learn from history. It happened in 1996. Let's not let it be repeated in 2026. Okay? The Constitutional Court has ruled. Ambassador, if I may push the argument a little slightly further, in our constitutional arrangement, and I'll make this statement very boldly, and I hope that some lawyers will come and challenge me on that. Only the Supreme Court is allowed to depart from its own decisions. And even that right is qualified. Okay? It must be justified in the interest of justice and in the development of the law. Only the Supreme Court. But there is no similar provision in relation to the Constitutional Court. Whatever decision the Constitutional Court makes, it is bound by that decision. It is stuck with that decision. And as a country, we have to come to that reality. We can't go on and beat the court until it gives us the decision that we want. That is the position of the law, and we have to learn. Let's not fight the Constitution. Let's obey the Constitution. Let's respect what the Constitution says. Okay? That is the starting point. That is the solution to all these challenges that we are talking about. Okay? And Ambassador, we've gotten our priorities wrong. This podcast, we should be talking about, for example, the issue of load shedding. What kind of, somebody is celebrating about the fact that, well, what's this, the mineral mapping has not been done in what, is it 60 years or something like that? Hey, and somebody is celebrating about the fact that copper mining is booming. Ambassador, we've been mining copper for nearly 100 years. We have to begin to have a conversation. What is the impact of mining in this country? Okay? 100 years. Nearly 100 years of copper mining in this country. we should have a conversation as to the impact of that industry. Yes, you can see $2 billion and everything else. Oh, they'll put it to a, but who benefits from that? Who benefits?
Yeah.
Okay? So these are the issues, because these are the bread and butter issues. Not Lungu's eligibility to stand, which was settled. But if we're interested in, we can wait until 2016, litigate that. The time is 2026, time will come. But right now, we should be able, how do we survive this load shedding? How do we survive? That should be part of the national conversation.
I remembered you, the president yesterday was celebrating that there's an investor who put up a cholera vaccine factory. And when you've been very clear, just deal with the water and sanitation issues and cholera will go away. The solution is not to mask this these basic issues with a vaccine. In fact, you're creating a bigger crisis.
Ambassador, it's like you drop in a sewage. Okay?
It doesn't matter how much perfume you add.
Okay? Go and take a shower and change clothes.
Yeah.
That's the answer.
Yeah.
You can put in as much perfume as you want, but it doesn't change the fact that you went in a sewage.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But these are all cosmetic issues. And first of all, I mean, maybe it's another conversation for another day. We always talk about foreign investment, what. Ambassador, what is the impact of foreign investment in this country? What is the impact?
Like you were saying, what's the impact of mining?
Yes.
We've been mining for 100 years.
Yes.
For 100 years, we've been exporting,
Yeah.
roughly $5 to $7 billion a
Yes.
year. What's the impact on
Yes.
our people? What's the impact on our development?
Okay? Those are the issues we should be talking about. We export, we're generating so much. And how much of that is staying here? How much is that? Somebody saying, well, we'll create 5,000 jobs and what? Those are just numbers. I grew up in Mufulira, Ambassador. That's my hometown.
Yeah.
Mufulira produces the best copper in the world.
True.
Okay? But go there. Mufulira looks like a war zone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, those are the issues we should be talking about. When you are generating wealth, shouldn't Mufulira be transformed into a modern city?
Yeah.
Because that's where wealth is generated. So these are the issues we should be talking about. Not these are the rubbish about eligibility and so on. That is all rubbish for me. It is inconsequential.
Yeah.
It has no impact on the average person, okay, that is struggling to make ends meet. Eligibility, there's no nexus between eligibility and putting food on the table. There isn't. We should be able to talk about how are we going to take care of the most vulnerable people.
Yeah.
Okay? We are even struggling to feed ourselves. Okay? Now, everybody's talking about all the challenges that we have gone through and everything else. We should be having a national conversation.
Yeah.
This load shedding thing, won't go out tomorrow.
No.
At least somebody should be able to give us data to be able to say, you know what, we expect the situation to improve maybe end of 2025. So that when you are in business, you make a decision whether you want to go in business now or wait for 2026 when electricity improves or not. But that is the kind of information, that is the kind of conversation we should be having, not the rubbish that we're discussing here, So, but the point is...
I'm so glad, Honorable John Sangwa, State Council, that you've come at short notice to alarm the nation on the path we've taken. I think people have been taking it very lightly. They thought that it's a mere contest between Edgar Lungu and Hakainde Hichilema, both of them now using state power to bar each other. And I'm glad that you've put it in proper context, that you're actually threatening national security, and the standing of that judiciary may be eroded irreparably.
Ambassador, this issue is bigger than
Yeah.
Lungu. It is the very existence of the country.
Yeah.
Okay? If it was about Lungu, I wouldn't even come here.
Yeah.
Okay, because I think Lungu can take care of himself.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about it is the country. This issue affects the country. And we can't just sit and allow certain people, because they're driving their own narrow, selfish, and transient agenda, to undermine the very existence of this country. We can't. Okay? And this issue is bigger than all of us. Remember, we went through, I keep telling you, we went through between 91 and 96. And my plea to Zambians, let's not allow what happened to Dr. Kaunda in 96, where he got bad through a constitutional arrangement, for Lungu to be equally bad, okay, through some ingenious arrangement with the judiciary. We have to stop that. If we have to stop Lungu, let's do that through the ballot. Let's do that through the ballot. It's already there. In any case, you know the funny thing that I see. I mean, people are wise enough to reject Lungu, right? Now,
why are you doubting them?
Why are you doubting them? Why have you lost faith?
What have you done so wrong?
Yes,
that you are afraid of the decision of the people?
Yes, you are now. You don't have confidence in us, the electorate, that will make the right decision in 2026.
Yeah.
Why are you doubting us? Okay, so don't use these things. Trust the system. Trust the people. They'll do the right thing come 2026.
So wonderful. John Sangwa, we're hosting State Council John Sangwa to discuss issues of the Constitutional Court and the matter that is before there. As you've seen, is very impassioned about the issue of the Constitution. And this abrogation, you go to literally personal injury of him. Mr. Sangwa, I would like to thank you that you took time to come and share your deep thoughts with the country. And the injustice we saw the last few days at the Constitutional Court, I hope that there will be a moment of reflection. Those courtrooms are open courtrooms. They should allow the gallery to come. They shouldn't bar people. The issues of recusal, I think, was a very important issue. The matter that preceded their hearing of suspending judges by the executive, again, that was totally unnecessary. And then the personal injury they did to you, where they couldn't allow you to speak. This is a constitutional court that guarantees freedom of expression. It deals with the rights of people. But it was the first one to injure your right to express yourself. And I'm glad that I hope there'll be a moment of reflection on that court. So for our dear viewers, unless you have some last words, Honorable.
No. I think we've said a lot, because otherwise I don't want to go off tangent. But I think what is important is for people to understand it's nothing personal.
Correct.
I have nothing against the judges. I have nothing against President Lungu. I have nothing against President HH and all those people that we're talking about. My only commitment is to the Constitution. Yeah. My primary obligation is the love of this country and my commitment to the Constitution. I take my oath very seriously. Okay, I took oath to defend the Constitution. And my appearing before you is part of the fulfillment of that, is part of fulfilling that constitutional obligation. Okay? And my only plea is this. I think we've become too polarized. I think we need to always try and put the country first. The country is bigger than all of us. We will go, okay? But the question is, what kind of a Zambia are we going to leave behind? Okay? The primary obligation, we should first of all think and see each other as Zambians first. And then our political affiliation and everything else second. Let's stand united on this issue. And because what is good for the country should be good for the country, whether you are PF, you are UPND, you are Socialist Party and everything else. That is what we should fight for, okay? That is what I believe is important, and that's what keeps me dealing with these issues. And like I started off by saying, Ambassador, I am privileged. I have the information. I lived through this. We failed to stop the injustice that was occasioned against President Kaunda in 96. And I'm calling upon Zambians, let's not have a repeat of that. Kaunda was prevented from having his name on the ballot. Let's not do that again. 30 years, that would be what, 30 years later? No. Okay, it means we have learned nothing if we allow that to happen. For me, it's the principle. It's not about Edgar Lungu, okay? I would argue the same thing even if HH was there. I would argue the same thing if Fred Member was there. Whoever. Okay? Somebody was just on this note,
Yeah.
somebody was saying there were these suggestions about me being partisan and so forth. Ambassador, I've been driven by my conviction.
Correct.
I've had the privilege, for example, representing, but as a matter of principle, I have never worked with government in power.
True.
Okay? I've always worked on the side of the underdogs. Okay? I represented President Kaunda when he left office. I worked with President Chiluba when he was out of office, not in office, when he was at his weakest.
Yeah.
I worked with President Sata when he was in opposition. I worked with President HH when he was in opposition. Okay? Now, I have no problem if interacting with President Lungu when he's in opposition.
Yeah.
You see, in fact, it is when it is in a situation like this, that's when we work with them. Okay? So, I detest injustice.
Correct.
It doesn't matter who is involved. Okay? It is not just right. We should be able to speak against injustice when we see it, irrespective of who is involved.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you very much,
Oh,
Ambassador.
wonderful.
This is DJ Mutati exclusive.
Alright, that's all for you today, lovely viewers. If you did enjoy the video, please don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section below. Tell me what you think about the video you just watched in the comment section below. I'll be super glad to hear from you, lovely viewers. Once again, I go by the name of Mutati Mpundu. I love you, peace, I gotta go.